thought your honesty meant something to you in the end.
And we're back! Today's book is Behind Every Lie by Christina McDonald. It wasn't the best day for me, so it's yet another review that I'm going to try to get through. Maybe it'll mean I get through it faster than others after I fix this. Because I think too tall, too short. That's the kind of day I'm having. Anyways, the irony of this book is that this one wasn't one of my book club reads, but another one by this author was. What is that? Oh, it's my water. I don't know why I didn't get my hands on the actual book. I think by that time maybe I'd been kicked out. I don't really know. But for some reason, maybe this one was on sale, like $5 for the audiobook. So I was like, okay, I'll try that one. Whatever the reason, the irony is I actually enjoyed this book. I have a feeling I would have liked the other book too. So that's yet one more book club book that I didn't get to say, hey, what a great choice, because you kicked me out. Ding. I think I like this book so much because I've discovered this is kind of my genre, right? My genre. Get it? It's probably obsolete by now, but I enjoy crime fiction. I enjoy having to suss out the problem, and I thought McDonald did a great job. I will say it wasn't nuanced. Like, I pretty much figured out all of the twists. I pretty much figured out who was behind what and why things happened. However, I didn't find that I minded that. Sometimes, yes, I would be like, that's just too easy. I shouldn't have been able to figure it out. I would have liked some more surprises. But I think it's the crafting was done so well that it made sense why things happened the way they happened. And it gave me a sense of accomplishment to guess what happened and who was the culprit. I don't know if it's just because I got some big old arms or I just have some big old guns or maybe Elastic just doesn't like me. But yikes, that hurts. The plot of this book revolves around a young woman named Eva who we open up with her meeting her, not estranged mother, but with her meeting her mother who she is not on the greatest of terms with for dinner because her mother has just received basically a humanitarian award. And the next thing we know, she's waking up in the hospital. Her mother has been murdered. She's been hit by lightning, and the policeman suspects her of committing the murder. I will say, the beginning of this book was confusing for me. I don't know if it's because I had to stop, start, or if it's a bit jilty, but it did take me a minute to get into this book because I couldn't figure out where we were in the story. And that says a lot because this is not one I pirated, okay? This is one I bought. Like, this is not one that I accidentally uploaded incorrectly and had gotten scrambled. This is one that went chronologically, so I shouldn't have had issues figuring out where we were in the story. I actually don't really remember like the legit opening, but then we get into her at the dinner, and then the next thing, oh, I know what it is. We open up with essentially a death scene. Like, somebody has been murdered and there's blood everywhere and the narrator is freaking out. We transition into the dinner scene, and then we are at the hospital and Eva has no idea what's happening. So I thought it was hard to follow. But then on top of that, I think my biggest complaint about this book is why Eva was such a heavy suspect from the beginning. I thought it was a little cliched and a lot uncalled for. Okay, so she was found within the vicinity of her mother's home. But like, the policeman had no clue what her relationship was with her mother. The only thing that he really had to go off, and this is not something, I mean, I'm assuming not something he knew off the bat, but there had been a misunderstanding in which Eva had thought someone was breaking into her home, and it turns out to be her mother. So she attacks her mother thinking it's a burglar. And I'm like, I don't really see how you're using this as leverage, how you're using this as the reason why Eva must have killed her mother. There's a viable explanation for what happened. So I thought that was really annoying and incredibly uncalled for. I do get it, like it pushes the novel forward because there's a sense of urgency, but I was like, why are you threatening Eva? Why are you tracking her? Why is she paranoid that you are keeping up with her credit card records and her phone calls? I didn't understand why so soon after she wakes up after being electrocuted, he's like, you're the one, you did it. Granted, and here's a little bit of spoiler, basically after he does some police work, he realizes she couldn't possibly have been the murderer. But I thought the fact that he was so heavy on her from the very beginning was a bit unbelievable. I wouldn't have minded if he'd been like, look, I know you guys weren't that close, and yeah, you were discovered not too far away from the house. So yeah, like, what's going on? You know, maybe if he had been questioning her and why she was where she was, I would have found that more believable, but him automatically being like, The thing is, Eva can't remember that night. Then we get her brother Andrew, who starts to believe that she murdered her mother for who knows what reason. Yeah, sure, I guess he knows that they weren't on the best of terms, but why then would he be like, why'd you kill our mom? Like, I didn't understand that either. I thought some of these characters jumped to conclusions. Maybe we're trying to say that he was just emotional, and that's why he was so quick to believe that she could have killed their mother. But there was not enough evidence to prove that she did anything. Aside from Eva's perspective, we get Kat's perspective, and Kat is Eva's mother. I'm trying to figure out really how to go about this explanation, this book summary. And I think I'm just going to get really straightforward with it. Kat is in an abusive relationship, an abusive marriage. She has a daughter named Eva. At a park one day, she meets this woman named Rose who has a daughter named Laura. Rose is just talking about how she kind of needs a nanny. Rose is like, oh hey, why don't you be my nanny? And Kat's like, not a good idea. My husband will not be happy with that. In any case, she does agree. She starts watching Laura and she will bring Eva with her. And then one day, Eva falls out of an open window and dies. This is what sets the entire novel in motion, because we're like, first off, Eva's alive. So how did she die? And the answer is, Eva's not Eva. Eva is Laura. What we discover is that Kat is catatonic over the loss of her daughter, but everybody is blaming Rose for opening this window because it was a hot day. So everybody's like, oh, Rose was negligent and she opened the window, and that is how Eva died. Kat's husband puts a hit out on Rose and Laura because Rose, there's insufficient evidence to convict her, to take her to trial. So he's like, well, she's gonna pay for what she did. I don't care what the law says. Kat overhears this, so she goes to Rose and she's like, look, you're in trouble. Like, you are in grave danger. And they plan on getting out of the country with Laura. Rose's husband is largely out of the picture. He's always traveling, doing something for work. So she's like, he can't protect me. He's never there. Yes, this is what we'll do. Kat and Laura go to a hotel to wait for Rose. Days later, they receive a wire transfer, a money transfer, but Rose never shows up. Then Kat sees a news report that says, oh, hey, Rose and her daughter Laura have died. They jumped off the bridge and killed themselves. And she assumes it was her husband. And so she's like, okay, I guess he's going to come after us, so we need to go. But since she'd had Eva's passport, she then brought Laura into the United States, because they're in London, under Eva's name, and starts a new life for herself. There was one moment where I guess one of her husband's henchmen tracks her down and he threatens her, but she's able to buy him off and he goes away, and that's that. So that I could have done without that. But that moment then catapults Kat into starting a relationship with her neighbor. They end up getting pregnant and then getting married. And this was all because she realized, she was like, okay, I hadn't planned on using this money that Rose had transferred, but now I'm realizing maybe there are going to be instances I have to, but I can't get a job, because if I get a job, I can't keep an eye on Laura/Eva. So I just have to marry an American. She marries this guy. They have Andrew, and Eva is none the wiser that, well, she knows that the guy is not her dad, but she's none the wiser to the fact that Kat's not her mom, until after Kat dies and Eva goes to the house and finds her birth certificate with a note on it saying, look, I wasn't your mother. But we're not getting there yet. We're still at Kat. We go throughout the years. Kat gets divorced, and then this is something I didn't really think was necessary, where we learn that Kat is actually into women. For me, when it was first introduced, I thought it was going to be a red herring, that Rose was going to be reappearing, and this woman that people keep seeing coming in and out or whatever is actually Rose. But it turns out that Kat, I guess, was just into women. But for me, it was such a minor plot point that it was irrelevant. In the end, huge spoiler-ish, I guess, yeah, because, I mean, we all know that Eva didn't do it. Although there's always a shadow of a doubt, because there had been an earlier incident in Eva's past in which she'd been raped, and she can't remember it. You get the sense that she has these instances where she loses all memory. Maybe she did. Anyways, she did not. It was Sebastian, and who is Kat's ex-husband, because he had seen an article about her humanitarian work. He tracked her down again. He basically just wants her to tell him where Rose is. And here's another spoiler. Rose is not dead. Rose is Kat's friend Lily, which for me, I was like, from the get-go, I knew Lily was Rose, because honestly, choose something that's not a flower for your name, okay? If you really want to fool someone, don't go from one flower to another. This was something I thought was a little bit of a missed opportunity, because I had the impression very early on from this first dinner in which Lily is introduced as basically Kat's best friend, or only friend, I thought Lily and Eva were going to have this really close relationship too. And so we were going to get a lot of Lily. And we don't. Honestly, I didn't even know that Lily didn't live in the same state. I was a little thrown by the overall relationship. At some point, Lily or Rose had reappeared in their lives. She was able to track them down. I think Eva was 12 or 13, because Eva then reached out to Rose's husband in order to prevent Rose from claiming Eva. She reached out to the husband as a failsafe, because she was like, so if Rose tries to take this child from me, well, now I've got this guy in my back pocket, because then he's gonna get some skin in the game too. That's what happens. Rose shows up. Eva coerces her into not claiming Eva, as Laura, and they just go on being friends, and Rose/Lily becomes an aunt figure. Back to Sebastian. Kat admits to him her deep, dark secret, which is Rose didn't leave the window open. She did. It had been a hot day. She wanted to air out the room, and it was her fault. So that's why he says, okay, well, I'm gonna kill you instead. And that's when Eva showed up. There was this huge scuffle. Sebastian does end up killing Kat, but then Kat in turn wounds Sebastian. But the person who kills Sebastian is actually Eva's fiance, Liam. So now we're getting all kinds of convoluted. And Liam, again, was somebody I guessed. I knew he was involved because he was gaslighting Eva. His insistence that she was doing certain things or had not partaken in certain things was just a red flag for me. How many spoilers should I give it one time? I'll spoil it even further. The rape that Eva had endured had actually been at Liam's hands. X number of years earlier, she'd been at a bar, she had been roofied, he'd been watching her, and he saw what was going to happen, so he says he rescued her. He gets her away from this other guy, takes her to his place, and then in his deluded state of mind, believes that they are having this romantic moment. And so that when they sleep together, it was consensual, which obviously it was not because she can't even remember the incident. Then X number of months later, because Eva got pregnant. When she's giving birth to this child, I think it was then. It was either then or right after. No, I think it was then. Yeah, so when she gives birth to this child, she just happens to run into Liam and they form this friendship or they strike up this relationship. They end up getting engaged, but he's tracking her because he is psychotic. This is how he knew she was at her mother's house. So he shows up and he ends up killing Sebastian, and then he hides Sebastian in the well at Kat's house. Anyways, all of this is going on and Eva's taking the fall for it. But back to Eva. What she does is she gets out of the hospital. She's like, I can't stay here any longer. She finds the note at her mother's house. It's attached to a business card of a guy named David Ashford. She goes to London and she encounters this woman at the art gallery he owns. And she learns that the woman is his daughter. And as soon as she introduces herself, this woman is like, oh my gosh, like, why would you do this? Are you a reporter? And again, it's just an overreaction. I think it's supposed to throw us off the trail, but to me, it didn't really make sense. In a sense, it made sense because if you haven't guessed, David Ashford was Laura's biological dad, and this woman, therefore, is her half-sister. This half-sister has grown up in Laura's shadow. I'm not at all surprised if the actuality of the situation is this woman recognized Eva as Laura and was like, I really don't want you in the picture, so I'm gonna do whatever I can to discourage you from getting around our dad. Turns out that David Ashford is dying from cancer and he's in the hospital. Eva is able to track him down. This is when he reveals to her who her true parentage is. So that was actually the one thing that did surprise me, was learning that David Ashford knew that Laura was alive. I didn't actually see that coming. I thought she was gonna show up and he was like, Laura, oh my gosh, you're alive. Not Laura, yeah, I knew you were alive. Kat called me like 20 years ago, you know? Eva and her half-sister have this little like come to Jesus moment. But she decides, yeah, I gotta go home to the States because basically I don't want a warrant out for my arrest. Which, I mean, I've already said I thought that was blown out of proportion a little bit. But yeah, like if you're a person of interest and they say don't go far, going across the pond, probably gonna get you in trouble. Like that as a detective would make me suspicious. But at the same time, she has kept the detective abreast of everything, like the flashback she's having, the things that she's remembering, the fact that, yeah, her mom left her in the snow, which is why she's traveling across the country. So she comes home and Liam, yeah, continues to gaslight her. Like he pretends that she demolishes their living room. But then there's another character. I think his name is Jake. I don't actually remember his name, but this is another one of those things where I thought it could have used a little bit more development, but Jake is her childhood best friend. At some point in college, actually literally like 2 weeks before she gets raped, they sleep together. She wakes up the next morning and he's gone. This comes into play later because she reveals to him she gives the child up for adoption, which is kind of what caused the big rift between herself and Kat, because she was going to have an abortion and Kat talked her into keeping the child. Eva resented Kat to an extent that she was like, I can't be around you, blah, 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 blah. But she reveals to Jake that he could have been the child's father too. They also have that thing of, like, they'd always have the unspoken agreement that they're not going to take their friendship to the next level. Drunken night turns into what happens. When she wakes up, he's gone. She's hurt because then she claims, well, you never contacted me. He's like, well, yes, I did. And then she admits that it was just during a bad time because that's when she had been raped. And then, of course, nobody believed that she'd been raped, which is why she never got back to him. But then he is naturally very upset with her when he learns that he may have fathered a child and she didn't let him know. This was something that was another clue to me that Liam was gaslighting her, that something was up with Liam, because we knew, as great as Liam seemed to me, he was also relatively controlling, and that Jake was obviously the one that got away. So I was like, if there's supposed to be a future for these two, then somehow we gotta get rid of Liam. So honestly, in the end, Jake was relatively useless. It's another stormy night. It's right after Eva reveals to Jake this whole parentage thing. She gets in her car only to discover it doesn't start because she had left her headlights on. So she goes to her mom's house, which is across the street, and this is when she remembers everything because it's a very similar night. Liam shows up, but also Jake shows up. Liam knocks Jake out. So this guy really had no purpose in the novel, which is why I say that it was highly undeveloped. I wanted more about why they slept together, what it meant to him, why he left, what his intentions were, things like that, to kind of further develop this subplot that obviously was super important to McDonald. Andrew, the brother, shows up because she had been on the phone with him. She's like, oh, I gotta go. And for some reason, he was like, maybe I should go to the house. So there's this struggle for the gun. She decides, you know what, I probably shouldn't shoot him. So then Andrew shoots Liam, only for Eva to take the blame, because if she took the blame, it would be under duress and she wouldn't get in trouble. Nobody would get in trouble. And they all ride off into the sunset. So it was actually a pretty good book. I liked the way that the chapters, the POVs were interspersed. At first, I vastly preferred Kat's chapters because that's where the big mystery was. Obviously, the overarching mystery is who killed Kat, but immediately, because it was so hard for me to get into Eva's chapters because they just weren't making sense in the timeline, I liked Eva because you knew something was going on. Again, I kind of wished we'd had more suspense there. My initial thought was that Laura had pushed Eva out the window because she was jealous, because when we first meet Laura, she's not that nice of a kid. And you do get this sense of rivalry. My thought was, maybe Laura is a juvenile psychopath. She's the one who killed Eva because maybe Eva wouldn't share her toy. And now we're all covering up for Laura, except then when Kat takes Laura and pretends that she's Eva, I was like, I guess we're not gonna go that dark of a route. But yeah, so then Kat's point of view, it was still interesting, but because we learned that Eva dies so soon, we sort of lose that mystique. But I liked the way that we would end on a note with Eva and then pick up with Kat to answer those questions that wouldn't have been answered because she was dead. So if we hadn't had her flashback chapters, we never would have known why or how she ended up where she did. I thought it was well crafted. It was interesting. I liked the not knowingness from Eva. Although I will say, for some reason, I thought her name was Ava. And it bugged the crap out of me that the narrator was calling her Eva. But it is. It's EVA, not AVA. So I had it wrong. She had it right. Kudos. I liked the narration on both parts. I thought it was well done. It was pleasant to listen to. And it didn't take me that long. I think it took maybe a week to finish this book. If you have questions, concerns, I think that's really about it. But as I said, it's not been the best day for me. So I don't want to drag this on longer than it has to. See you later. Bye.